We are now 15 days away from the UK, well, maybe, leaving the European Union. And today I thought I'd address a piece of propaganda that the BBC have put out, titled, "Have UK Voters Changed Their Minds on Brexit?" And I thought we should go through all of it, because seriously, what the feck? UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson hopes in the coming days to strike a deal that takes the UK out of the EU. Yes, by basically doing what he is elected to do. Well, doing so would implement the result of the referendum in which 52% of voters backed Leave and 48% Remain. And if you want to deconstruct it further, they don't represent much of the entire population, which means they totally don't represent anything, and therefore this vote is null and void. But where do voters stand on Brexit now? There is no majority for any course of action. First, no single course of action is preferred by a majority of voters. For example, polling firm Kantar has asked voters on a number of occasions which of four possible outcomes they prefer. The most popular choice has been to remain in the EU. However, this secured the support of about 1 in 3. Let's have a look at the poll for a second, because I think it quite right we address this. Leave with no deal, 23%. Leave with Theresa May's deal, 9%, which is 9% higher than what I thought it would be. Leave but remain in single market customs union, which effectively means don't leave, 14%. Remain in the EU, revoke Article 50, 34%, and dunno, 21%. Notice that the numbers do not add up to 100. Yeah, funny that. Basically Kantar round up, which is why there's a discrepancy. I would like to know more about where the polling data comes from, and if you really think about it, basically remaining in the single market and customs union while saying you're leaving, which you're not, you may as well actually just vote for remain in the EU and revoke Article 50, because to leave but stay in those would mean to not regain control of our destiny and control of our own trade. Another company called BMG asked people which of 5 alternatives they would prefer if a deal is not agreed by the end of this month, and not a single one was even close to being backed by more than half of the voters. So again, no agreement has been reached. The single most popular option, though, is to leave without a deal. The options were leave without a deal at 34%, leave with Theresa May's deal at a 6% high, 6% higher than what I thought it should be, seek extension to negotiations to try to reach a new deal, 9%, hold second in-out referendum, 18%, revoke UK's notice of withdrawal and remain in EU, 22%. I think that's just Scotland at this point, and some parts of London. Dunno. 12%. 3 polls by Opinium, Panelbase, and Comres have asked people what they thought of proposals for a deal brought forward by Mr. Johnson. However, since his deal has yet to even be presented to Parliament, this is at best speculative. All 3 found that slightly more voters were in favour of them than against. However, they were still backed by well under half. In Opinium's poll, 27% thought the proposals would represent a good deal, while 22% reckoned they would represent a bad one. Both Panelbase and Comres found that 31 to 32% support the proposals, while 27 to 28% oppose them. Feels like leave and remain, really, doesn't it, with that gap? But in both cases, 41% said they did not know. Kantar also compiled another lovely little survey study thing poll, where it showed how different Remainers and Leave voters are. Who preferred no deal, 51% for those who voted Leave. Those who supported May's deal, weirdly, vote Leave actually voted more in favour of it. Again applying that to the single market and customs union but leaving with a deal. And where vote Remain absolutely destroy vote Leave is with the option of remain in the EU. Go figure, right? As if there wasn't a single option on the table that didn't state the bloody obvious. And if no deal is agreed by the end of October, according to BMG, the majority of vote Leave voters would prefer to leave without a deal, while the majority of vote Remain voters would rather either hold a second referendum or remain in the EU. It is believed at this point that very few voters have changed their minds over the 3 and a bit years since we voted out, and attitudes towards a second referendum are incredibly down the middle, except for Kantar's, where the support for it was 53%. Panel base was the nearest against, but the rest all hovering around the 40% marker. This is all quite fascinating, and it does paint quite an interesting picture, but quite frankly it is utterly irrelevant. We voted, we get on with it. The speculative nature of this, and the attitudes people have towards leaving and not leaving, are being exacerbated because people don't seem to understand that you don't get a do-over just because you didn't get what you wanted. Respect that you were done, dusted, toasted, outvoted, outnumbered by people who are sick of this shit. Those same people, if another referendum happened, won't turn up for the next one because they had their say and you chose to ignore them.